Hello everyone, I'm Tyagi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to explain the third chapter of Flamingo book of class 12th English, that is Deep Water. This chapter has been written by William O. Douglas and it is an autobiography of the author. So first of all, let's know about the author. William O. Douglas was born in 1898 and died in 1980. After graduating with a Bachelor of Art in English and Economics, he spent 2 years teaching in high school in Yakima. But later, he decided to pursue the legal career. He met Franklin D. Roosevelt, the president, in Yale and became his friend and advisor. He retired in 1975 and he remained the longest service justice in the history of the court. This chapter has been taken from the book of Man and Mountains. In this chapter, the author talks about his fear of water and thereafter how he finally overcame it. It is an autobiography of the author and the theme of the chapter. We can make anything possible if we are firm determined and hardworking towards the goal. The chapter starts that Douglas was 10 or 11 years old. He decided to learn swimming. That's why he selected the YMCA pool. YMCA means the full form of YMCA, Young Man Christian Association. There was a pool in Yakima River and there is a place Yakima. Yakima is used for the place and the river both. His mother warned him not to learn swimming in Yakima River because the river was very treacherous. Treacherous means dangerous. Number of people drowned there. That's why she warned William O. Douglas not to go there to learn swimming. YMCA pool was safe because at the shallow end it was only 2 to 3 feet deeper and at the deeper end it was only 9 feet deep. The author was very weak, his legs were skinny. That's why he didn't want to show, but he subdued. Subdued means suppressed his pride and went into the water or the pool using a pair of water wings. Then he had the aversion to water. He hated the water. He didn't want to go into the water because one incident had happened with him when he was only 3 or 4 years old. His father took him to the beach in California. But the author hung to his father because he was worried and he was afraid to the waves of the water. A strong wave knocked him down and swept over him. एक बड़ी सी लहर आई और जो उसके ऊपर से बह करके निकल गई. Buried in water. The author was buried in water and father laughed as he knew that there was nothing to be worried. Whenever the author wanted to go inside into the water, his childhood fear revived. So he decided to learn swimming in YMCA pool because YMCA pool was the safest place to learn swimming. He tried to ape the boys. Ape means that is copy. To copy करना, किसी की नकल करना. He tried to ape the other boys who were learning swimming there. Did it for 2-3 times on different days. He started to feel relaxed. Now, day by day, he was going to be relaxed. But one misadventure happened. Again, there was a misadventure. He went to the pool before time. One day, he went to the pool before time and waited for the others to come because he didn't know how to swim. A big bruiser came and yelled. Big bruiser, it means that is a boy who is about 18 years old and had good muscles and had hair on his chest. It means he was a very good muscled boy. He yelled. Yelled means he shouted and told The author, hi Skinny, how would you to be ducked? Ducked means plunged. In what way you want to the take the jump into the river and tossed him to the deeper end. And this boy, Big Bruiser, this 18 years old boy came and he picked up the author and tossed into the pool where the water was very deep. Now the author landed in sitting position as the Big Bruiser tossed him into the water. He didn't know how to swim and he swallowed water and went to the bottom of the pool. He was frightened, but not frightened out of his wits. It means he was frightened, but his mind was working. So he planned. When his feet hit the bottom, he would make a big jump. जैसे ही उसके जो feet है bottom को touch करते हैं, वो बहुत तेजी से एक jump ऊपर लेगा, came to the surface, वाटर के सरफेस पर आ जाएगा, lie flat on it, उस पर सीधा लेट जाएगा, and paddle to the end of the pool और पैडल करके pool के end तक पहुंच जाएगा. He planned it. He was going down slowly, but due to the pressure of water, he was going down very slowly, and the 9 feet deep pool seemed him to 90 feet. Now his lungs were ready to burst. He summoned his strength. Summon means collected. He collected his strength and executed his plan, what he had planned earlier, to bob like cock. To bob means to float like a cock on the surface of the water. But it couldn't happen. Why? He came up slowly. Very slowly he was coming out of the water. Opened his eyes but couldn't see anything except water. When he was coming up on the surface of the water, he wanted to see but he couldn't see anything except the water. And that was the yellow dirty water. Grief panicky. After seeing that, he became very panicked and he wanted to grab like something like rope, clutched only water. But when he wanted to grab like a rope, he only clutched the water and he was suffocating. He tried to yell, but no sound came out of his mouth. Only his eyes and nose could came out of the water. Now the author flailed on the surface. Flail means he was moving slowly on the surface of the water. He tried to bring his legs up, but his legs hung as dead weight. It means they denied to do the work. They became rigid. He swallowed water and his throat and lungs, they were choked. A great force was pulling him down again. He started to go down second time into the pool. He expended his strength as we do when we have nightmare. Nightmare means bad dream. जब हम कोई बुरा सपना देखते हैं, कोई लड़ाई देखते हैं, and we expend our strength like in this way, he was expended his strength. He lost his breath, his lungs were ached, and his head was throbbing, and he was going to be dizzy. He was going to be unconscious. But he remembered the strategy. What strategy? In what way he has to go down, hit the bottom, and jump and come to the surface of the water. Sheer stark terror seized him. Stark means complete terror. Completely he was frightened. No one understands his condition except the person who experienced it. He was paralyzed, his throat choked or frozen, only his heart and pounding alive. Pounding means his thoughts. Only the thoughts in heart were alive. He jumped, but there was no difference. He couldn't come out of the water fully. Only his eyes were out of the water and nose almost too. Third time, he started to go down. His all efforts ceased now. His legs became lame and he was unconscious. He wiped out his fear. He was no more panic, quiet and peaceful because he was going to be drowsy, going to be dizzy. And he felt some tender arms around him. The tender arms just like the arms of a mother. When he came into his senses, he found himself lying on the stomach beside the pool because people were making him to vomit. The boy who threw him was saying he was just fooling, and the people carried him to the locker room where their clothes were kept and towels were kept, and he has to change. Several hours later, he went home. He was weak and trembling, and shook and cried lying on his bed. He was trembling with fear. He couldn't eat on that day anything. Haunted fear was in his heart, making him wobbly, weak in his knees, and sick to his stomach. Never went back to the pool, and he longed for his fishing, canoeing, boating, swimming, and bathing. Douglas tried every way to get rid of his fear or terror. That's why on October 1, he decided to get an instructor to learn swimming. The instructor practiced him for 5 days in a week, an hour a day. The instructor put a belt around him, a rope attached to the belt, and went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. The instructor held on to the end of the rope so that the narrator went back and forth. After 3 months, his terror began to slack. Slack means to reduce. He taught the narrator how to inhale or how to exhale. Piece by piece, the instructor made the narrator a swimmer. In April, the instructor finished his work. The instructor completed his work, but Douglas was not satisfied. He went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire and dived off a dock at Triggs Island. He swam 2 miles across the lake, swam the crawl. He used all the strokes: crawl, breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. That is the stroke. Only once his terror revived, he put his head into the water and laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do with me?" The terror fled and the narrator swam across. He went to Titan to Conrad Creek Trail to meet glaciers and camped in high meadows by the side of the warm lake. The next morning, he dived into the lake and swam across to the other shore and came back, just as Doc Corpon did. Corpon, he was a swimmer, famous swimmer of USA. He shouted with joy. The narrator shouted with joy, "I had conquered my fear of water," because at that time Douglas conquered his fear of water. He said experience had deep meaning for him or for Douglas, because only those who experience such terror can appreciate his efforts. In death there is a peace. The word said by Douglas. In death there is a peace. It means जब इंसान की death हो जाती है, मौत हो जाती है, तब then there is a peace. But there is terror only in the fear of death. Terror, डर कहाँ है? मौत के डर में ही डर है. It means we had fear in fear of death. At last, he felt released from his terror of water. In this way, the author William O. Douglas conquered his fear of water. So this is all about the chapter. Hope you got it. Thank you very much for listening me.